Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to Looking Ahead, the series where I break down and analyze the meta, what's happening over Japan, and how it'll impact Taiwan. Today is an exciting one. Japan held its Elite Four tournament, which was, or in their translation, Heavenly Kings, which is the four best players over in Japan compete to stay in to be their brand ambassadors and hold the title of one of the best players in the game, which is honestly an incredible tournament. It was in Paradox Rift, so we're going to look and see what decks they were playing. Also, some new cards revealed, as well as also looking at the meta share for the City League results. Some of them are definitely surprising with how the placement is shaping up. And all three of these decks here are very, very well positioned into this meta. So if we look at some of the new cards, part of our Legendary Treasure, our Shining Vault sort of sets, we've got some interesting cards here. We do have this new Charmeleon, which will probably be the sort of like the new version of the deck. The artwork I'm not sold on, but preventing all effects of attacks from your opponent's Pokemon done to this Pokemon damage is an effect. It's not too bad. It's like decent Sableye sort of counter, but it is Greninjable. But being 90 HP is lovable, still searchable, so not a terrible inclusion, because I know now we're seeing a more inclusion of these Charmeleons, as a lot of Charizard decks are going more the Evolution TM because they're purely scared of that Devolution TM, which Lost Mind decks can really capitalize on. As well as also we got the Iron Treads and Great Tufts having their ancient and future versions. So we did find a bit weird that they got released and then 4 sets later we finally got the ancient version and future Paradox forms. But honestly, they're not, or they're fine. Great Tusk is basically you can deck yourself at the end of your turn if in the active spot, discard the top 5 cards of your deck. So if you have Path to Peak, you nullify this. But it's attack for a fighting and triple colorless, 160 damage, and the attack isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. A lot of people are thinking this could work in like a Lost Box style deck, which runs Path to the Peak. Doing 260 damage is incredibly powerful. Think of the likes of DTE. Oh, sorry if you hear fireworks. Right now in the UK, it is bonfire night, so you'll hear lots of fireworks in the background potentially. But in theory, you're doing 240 damage, which is not terrible. Even like, so there's lots of energy acceleration right now. We've got Gutsy Pickaxe, we've got the Standy Shock, we've got the Kalos, so there are ways around it, and the Iron Treads EX for double metal and a colors, 150 damage, and discard a future boost capture energy attached to it. If you do, during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 150 less from your opponent's attacks, effectively giving it 370 HP. Not too bad resistance to grass types, but it is weak to fire, so that's definitely something to consider. Not terrible, but all right. Some other cards I generally think are worth noting are Killer Wattrel. It's so annoying that it's not a United Wings, it's United Thunder, 10 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon for each Pokemon in your discard pile has United Wings. It's a free retreater, it's a decent other attacker, potentially add like some Zoroarks into United Wings, different option, but Technical Machine is incredible. For a triple colorless, 280 damage, and you can only use this if your opponent has one prize card remaining. You attach this to Zard, you're hitting that 280 damage without having that choice belt, so that's incredible. Cramorant can also do 280 damage because they work in the effects of the ability. So honestly, these are incredible, really good cards. It's good in likes of Chien-Pao, it's really good in Charizard. There are so many ways around how this card can be utilized in many different sort of captions. I love the TM's inclusion in this deck, and I think it's absolutely incredible. Also, another card which I thought was worth noting is the Students of Paldea. Get a search your deck for a Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box and put in your hand, but then for each Students of Paldea in your discard pile, search your deck for another Pokemon that doesn't have a rule box. So effectively, you could search for a minimum of 1 or a maximum of 4. Sorry, for 3. Yeah, it's 4. So it's not terrible, but like it's quite fun for like a searchable card in the format. Very, very interesting. So now let's look at the City League result. So the meta share back on top is Roaring Moon, which I am a huge fan of it. And thank you so much for support on the channel as well. Honestly, it means so much to me. And as well, if you haven't entered into the giveaway, the link is in the description for my Twitter to like, repost, and because now I can repost, reshare, and retweet, and you can enter into pretty much get over 60 code cards, including multiple Paradox Rift, because I'm so excited for this set, and seeing Roaring Moon, a brand new archetype on top, is incredible. And Charizard as well, back in there at the second place. Lost Tino has been on an absolute kill stream this sort of week, doing absolutely incredible by doing multiple really good finishes. Chien-Pao is definitely kind of overtaken like the Miraidon for the Iron Hands EX deck of choice, which we're going to talk to in a minute. Gardevoir's doing pretty well, which a lot of people say Gardevoir's dead, and same thing with Lost Box, and they're equivalent of they're about 13% of the meta, so they are definitely not dead archetypes. Mew's doing really well, Golden Go, and Miraidon, so many new archetypes. But then really other decks which haven't been performing as well as people might have thought about, are likes of Lugia and Iron Valiant. They're just falling just a little bit short of being about 2% of the meta. So roughly about 8% of the meta is unknown, and all of these are incredibly really good results. Roaring Moon and definitely Lost Routine are much stronger in Japan as they are a best of one format. Hitting these huge damage attacks, it's incredibly early as your first turn if you're going second is really, really powerful. Charizard, Japan is absolutely loving Charizard, and we're enjoying it too. I think it's like the fourth most played deck online right now. A lot of people are kind of taking towards the Evolution Incense sort of version, but the TM one, sorry, but definitely it's still very, very popular. And Gardevoir as well, utilizing Screamtail, and all of these cards, which I'm going to talk to you much more further, because a lot of the people in the Elite Four didn't opt to play some of these cards, and honestly, the decks that come through are incredibly well done. Potentially could be the way forward of how we utilize some of these lists. So we just compiled to see what the top resulting archetypes were. Tina is back up there at number 1 with 8 wins and really, really multiple, so really good placements all the way down to top 8. I honestly think this is an incredibly powerful sort of result, and quite a few of these finals, it was Tina against Tina. So Tina is up there being one of the strongest archetypes. Gardevoir being in second place. A lot of people went, this deck is dead coming post-rotation. Sorry, not post-rotation. Post some Iron Hands. No one's really going to play anymore. Single prize archetypes. But if we look at the rest of the deck here, Chien-Pao is the only one up here which actually utilizing Iron Hands. Roaring Moon is still very powerful. Obviously hits for weakness. It can do really, really trade nicely into Gardevoir. But Gardevoir is just one of these really powerful decks. Screamtail is really good. A lot of people are cutting mana fee to add the likes of Jirachi because people are only real Greninja decks right now, like sometimes in Tina, but more permanently in Chien-Pao. So you can afford to like not really rely on your bench space. So Screamtail, it's an incredible inclusion. It's doing a huge amount of like 160 damage to your opponent's bench is really, really strong. Charizard has finally been dethroned over there in Japan, but still doing incredibly well. But look at those top 8 placements. It's doing really, really well, and a really unique take as well, which we'll talk about very shortly. Mew is definitely still doing really, really well. This deck is not dead. I don't know what people are saying. It didn't really gain too many brand new cards here, but definitely Fusion Mew over there in Japan is the more common way to play it. And so for us, I still believe the DTE build is still very, very strong. Roaring Moon did go down by 1 placement, but look at that sort of percentage-wise here. If we can see the other decks, I would say a lot of the percentage-wise is more heavy in the top 16, but Roaring Moon is definitely top 8 heavy. 34 places in top 8. 12 in top 4, 6 in second place, and 5 wins. This is incredibly powerful to see how good Roaring Moon is. It's one of the strongest decks right now in the format. And then obviously in 6th place, we have Chien-Pao. Again, just look at these results overall. None of these have just like that, oh, they squeaked in with multiple wins. They are consistent, they are strong. And I would say these are definitely the top 6 archetypes going into the Paradox Rift format. If you're testing for LAIC, other regionals, even if you're testing for some cups as well and challenges, I would say these are the top 6 decks which you need to focus on. And I pretty much have most of these decks built except for Charizard, because I only have 1 Charizard. So these are the ones which I'd be really considering about playtesting. And honestly, I'm really happy to see the results and how the meta is trying to shake up constantly. It's always healthy, but I feel like it's in Japan, those top 3 archetypes, they're constantly going to be up there multiple times. So let's talk about this event that happened for the Elite Four. So the Elite Four tournament happened in Japan this past weekend on Saturday, and it had the top, the current Elite Four and the best 4 players which did well in the last competitive season. They could pretty much compete in this tournament, this single double elimination bracket. So if you lose twice, you're out of the competition. You go win twice, I believe that's how it works. And you can enter into the Elite Four. These are basically the brand ambassadors for the TCG. They kind of have the, they're like the big sort of faces there. You can get autographs, they help sign in for things. They also help get like promote the brand, get some products early, as well as also get into every single event that they would like to compete in. So it's a really, really good thing. And definitely I've seen lots of conversations that they should potentially have it for all sort of regions. And I love that they have it in Japan. And I'm really happy I get to cover it in the looking ahead videos. But you can see here, decks played 4 of them with Chien-Pao, with 2 of them being Iron Hands and 1 of them being the turbo version, which is Shintaro Ichiro, which actually got to who won with Mega Odonome. Then we have 2 Gardevoirs, 1 Charizard and 1 Mew EX. A lot of these you can kind of see not really going into that new sort of build, really only Iron Hands, but Gardevoir and Charizard definitely do have some new sort of options into them. So what we're going to do right now is look at the current sort of the now brand new Elite Four, all the winning lists which they used to get into the Elite Four, as well as the other 4 lists as well, which just felt a little bit shy. But what place the better place to start with Charizard, with Ritora, which actually did get him top 4 back in London Worlds in 2012. Apologies for some of the quality, these are the best qualities unfortunately online. But what's interesting here, it does play the 1/1 line of Toadscroll. And this was absolutely an incredible meta decision for this tournament. As you saw, 4 Chien-Pao in there. And if you don't know what Toadscroll does, it prevents your opponent from getting any cards from their discard pile into their hands. Now, if you don't realize this, Pokestop actually, the cards don't go straight to your hand. They go from the discard pile and then into your hand, the item costume. So you're preventing them from using Pokestop. You're preventing them from using Superior Energy Retrieval. There's multiple way cards to actually prevent it, even likes of Clara as well. So it's an incredibly really good inclusion into the deck. It can easily fit into with the likes of that Evolution in TM. You can obviously set up your multiple Charmeleons, your multiple sort of options as well, your Bibarels as well, which is definitely going with the more sort of play instead of playing the likes of Pidgeot. Sorry if you can hear these on fireworks in the background. I can't really help sort of these sort of situations when I'm trying to record the video. But also the evolution sense easily makes you go, right, I can Artisan or Battlefield P-Bars, get the Toedscruel in there, like the baby one, and then also we can go in to get the Toedscruel, the other Pokemon, which is honestly incredible. This tier is very, very powerful, using the Arven, using the Bibarel to really help you in the likes of if you get Pathed or Ioned or Roxanne, you can easily draw into it instead of having Pidgeot, which definitely is very weak to that option. Jirachi, Manaphy to really help you against these Lost Box around there, as well as also Greninjas. This list here, I generally think people will be playing it. People have already clocked onto Ryoto's list and been testing it over in the online tournament. People have been testing it over in Japan as well. It actually did get a win on Sunday. So it's really, really exciting to see this list is the right way to go. You're going really heavy with the 4-3-3 Charizard because people are scared of that Devolution TM, and going all the way down to Charmander and losing that way, mainly the 70 HP one. There are just so many good things about this list, and honestly, I absolutely love it. But if we look at this Gardevoir list as well, which I've actually been personally testing by Hiramo, apologies for any of the name pronunciations here, it's very, very consistent and streamlined. It does opt to play the likes of Screamtail. Screamtail, like I mentioned, is a very, very powerful, which does a huge amount of damage for how many damage counters are on it to one of your opponent's Pokemon of choice. As I mentioned, Manaphy could definitely becoming a little bit less sparse in the metagame right now, so Screamtail can easily slot into these decks. Probably after this tournament, a lot of the top competitors will probably be going back to adding that Manaphy because of how powerful and how scary Screamtail really has to offer in Gardevoir list. It's a stronger Cresselia. You can KO Bibarels instead of just KOing the likes of Bidoof. Countercatcher is an amazing inclusion as well. Definitely a really good card because Gardevoir isn't really going to be taking the first or second prizes. So having that counter for that late game acceleration is honestly absolutely incredible. Fortunately, it still has that Moonlight Hill, which hopefully we get next month or the month after when we get the Legendary Treasure Vault, but we don't have that right now, but that could easily be a Temple of Sinnoh in our format. The rest of the cards, very, very simple. It does play the 11 Psychic and 1 Reversal, which mostly we've seen like the 11-2 or the 10-2 split reversal. So having the 11-1 is definitely something which I think is a very unique way of approaching it. And going down to 2 Fog Crystals, because you have a higher chance of actually searching for your basic Psychic energies and your basic Psychic Pokemon with how many Curlies you still play. Still a refinement because that's the best way, and potentially this could be the worst way around it. Also mentioned is this, a lot of Mutex were in this one, like Spiritomb and Drapion, so don't know if that's definitely tournaments or focus, but definitely people here really did respect Mew EX. Now on to the potentially 4 Chien-Pao list, which we are going to look at. This is Takaro Yamu. Again, apologies for pronunciation, and this is a very unique and very interesting way of playing Chien-Pao. Both of the lists which I'm going to talk to you do not play any gusting effect except the like of Countercatcher. Now, Countercatcher is definitely really powerful. If you're definitely behind in prizes, it's really strong. But having the likes of Greninja and Iron Hands, you have multiple ways to get multiple prize cards and Chien-Pao as well. You're pretty much just purely attacking into whatever is in the opponent's active spot. This can be a little bit detrimental at time if they just send you single prize after single prize after single prizer. But if they go that way there, they get suddenly potentially get a 2 prizer. You get to use that Countercatcher to full effect and gust out one of these 2 prizes to try and even out the prize rate as much as possible. Now, the other really sort of a unique in a way, Ancient, the Earthen Vessel and Pokegear is an absolutely incredible inclusion. I feel like especially with having powerful Pokestop is, you're having Pokegear, you're having your opting routes to get even stronger to get your Irida. And Earthen Vessel gets that discarding effect, getting that water energy in, as well as also finding ways to get the lightning energy. It does play 9 water, which is definitely the normal, but seeing it down to like 9 and 2 is definitely quite a high count of energies. But I do like the double Super Rod. The Bibarel is definitely the right way to play Chien-Pao, and this is honestly an incredible version. And if we look at the final winning list, Daichi Shimada, which obviously got the 2nd place at Worlds in 2012, and obviously definitely become, 2022, not 2012, sorry, like that, is incredibly consistent and very similar to the Turbo Build, which we've been playing multiple times. Opts to play the Manaphy, does play the Drapion, and then throw a 1-1 split of their Earthen Vessel, as well as also having the the Poker Gear, higher counts of Ultra Ball and Nest Ball, which are definitely probably the way around it because you're playing more evolution cards. You want to find a way to get around it. I do love having the heavy ball because in my early lists, as you saw, I did play multiple versions of Iron Hands. Going down to having a heavy ball really helps you get into that Iron Hands as well. The only thing I don't like about this list is potentially, as well as also the other one, because you may potentially start with Drapion and Iron Hands. They're very difficult to really kind of like retreat, and only having one out to your switching card, you could potentially draw into it very easily with the likes of Pokestop, Irida, you could search for it, you have Iono, and multiple draw factors with Bibarel and Greninja, but only having one switching out for a very, very beefy sort of Pokemon can be quite difficult and detrimental to your gameplay. Sorry, but again, they are opting to play with the less sort of gusting effect and having that counter catcher for the late game sort of pressure if you're behind in prizes. So honestly, I really like all of these decks here. Charizard is definitely the most unique sort of deck, which actually was played at this tournament and honestly makes a lot of sense and potentially could be the way of how we're seeing Charizard kind of go in the future. So let's look at the rest of the archetypes as well, which the ones unfortunately didn't win, but definitely something to consider. So let's start by looking at another Chien-Pao. This is Shintaro Itio, which obviously he is a very, very well-known name in the Japanese community, as well as also in ours for the world scene. We can see here it is this pure, straightforward turbo Chien-Pao, focusing purely on the likes of having the Pokestop, drawing for your deck constantly, doing the high counts of Iono, so it also has that pressure in the late game. High counts of Bidoof, so you really want to have your own Bidoof out there to set up your Bibarel. High counts of Baxcalibur, so in case you discard it, you have multiple ways to try and get it. But also playing the cross switcher, cancelling clone, so you have that gusting effect as well, which the other decks were definitely not really sort of portraying. And the Drapion as well to really help with that Mew and that Gardevoir. And there was, as you saw, there was a Mew which unfortunately didn't really take down and go into that Elite Four, but still a really, really strong pick overall. Definitely, so I just want to mention about it that you don't have to play Iron Hands to be really, really powerful. And if a world champion was considering not playing Iron Hands, definitely something which potentially you could be on your radar as well. The other one as well, which is the last Iron Hands Chien-Pao list we're going to look at. Yes, I know we've just looked at 4 overall, but this one here is again very, very similar to one we just saw on the first one. The 9-2 split of energies, the 3 earthen vessels, so a little bit higher up, but I think that the 3 count here opts in the way for only playing 2 Chien-Paos. Chien-Pao isn't really your main attacking sort of option in this style deck here. You have other sort of attacking range as well. And this skate row kind of potentially, if you could use like double earthen vessel or Chien-Pao, search another Chien-Pao here, you can get 8 energies, which is very, very strong. And I think it's a very, very powerful way around it as well. Again, I'm not too sure if the Drapion should be a must inclusion into Chien-Pao. You already have a decent okay into Mew. The Drapion is still very, very powerful. Like you don't have to Energy Accelerate into it, but it's not really a starter you want to have. And if potentially there's more dark breed Pokemon, like for example, Gardevoir still roaming the meta, you already have a decent matchup with Iron Hand and Greninja. So more I'm looking at this, more I'm generally thinking the Drapion was more of the inclusion just to think about the metagame for the tournament. But the rest of it here, I do think is still very, very strong. The 2 Escape, I much more prefer having more opting into more of that switching capability. But again, we're seeing lots of these Chien-Pao not focusing on the gusting effects, but mainly focusing on more of a disruptive capability with a Escape Rope and Counter Catcher for the late sort of game. So let's look at this last sort of Gardevoir list before we go on to Mew. And this is, again, very, very similar to the list that we showcased earlier on. Just played the 3-1 split of both Ralts and Curlier. Just play that Screamtail again. But again, what's a little bit different is they play the 10-2 split of energies instead of the 11-1, which we saw earlier, and double Counter Catcher as well. I think this list is very, very consistent. It's very, very strong. And I do think that Gardevoir is definitely still in there in the metagame. Jirachi really helps you in against the Lost Mining sort of decks here. And yes, I know Iron Hand is very scary. They can take 2 prizes against a Gardevoir, but you can easily respond to that with an easy threat from the likes of Gardevoir and even like Zacian V as well. So you have multiple ways around it as well as Screamtail to add some pressure onto the bench. I generally think Gardevoir is in such a good position in the metagame. A lot of people have kind of been saying it's been dead on Twitter, but definitely do think Gardevoir is here to stay. The results from the City League and also that 2 of the strongest players over there in Japan out of the 8 opted to play Gardevoir at this tournament, even though there's so many Chien-Pao out there. They still think it is a good pick overall. And to kind of finish off, let's look at Ninzu's Mew list. And honestly, there's nothing too much really to talk about it. It's very similar to the World Champion list. It's very similar to other ones. It does play Townstall from the 151 set. Sorry, Obsidian Flames, which is the only card that really adds a new card as well. You're using that to kind of get your Forest Hill Stone, your the likes of your And wow, I mean, it's a muscle band, but it's choice belt, as well as also box of disaster, a really good inclusion. If there's going to be loads and loads of Gardevoirs around, I think having a box of disaster just helps you in that sort of metagame if they're getting these big one-hit KOs against it, even like sort of Drapion as well. Potentially your opponent could get knocked out in the process if it's Gardevoir. Mewis is very, very consistent. Hasn't really gained a new card since Obsidian Flame, so our last proper set, but it's still up there as a contender to be one of the strongest decks. And one of the decks, again, you shouldn't rule out. It's 7% of the metagame over there in the City Leagues. It was in the top 6 archetypes over there in Japan in the City League. So do not rule out because it is a very, very strong archetype. So just looking ahead over into the future here, is Chien-Pao now one of the strongest and top contenders in the metagame? It was up there at the 6th spot in the better results in the City League. It's up there as the fourth most popular archetype in the City League, by being about 12%. And 4 of the best players in Japan out of the 8 decided that Chien-Pao will be the play to play. It's really good in a best of 2 as well as also, but 3, as well as also a best of 1. So generally Chien-Pao could be a really good top contender, especially going to LEIC, the next huge big tournament for us. Will Lost Tina finally overthrow Zard? Is a big question I've been kind of thinking about there. I've been talking like, not like the Duma thing, oh, Charizard is so powerful right now, the Terraform, it's absolutely dominating the Japan scene. And finally, we kind of got replaced by Giratina, but how long will this last? Is it going, because we are playing like it, Charizard is a lot more defensive now. It's kind of a little bit slower, but having an evolution TM, especially if you're going second, is really, really strong here. Gives you that little bit better option out in the late sort of game here. The Bibarel is really helpful, whereas Tina really will be slamming down those Path to Peak, slamming down those Ionos or Roxanne. That Bibarel can really help with it. So potentially they can really go toe to toe. And more importantly, is Rory Moon the best new deck that came out from Paradox Rift, like an archetype from that format? I generally think it is. It is so strong. It is so powerful. The Frenching Gaussian can instantly get these big one-hit KOs. You have Calamity Storm, which can do 220 damage, or even 230 for playing that Brute Barnet, which in my list I do play, which is absolutely incredibly strong here. I do think it's one of the strongest. It is the most played deck right now in the online tournament, with a 52% win rate as of I'm recording it. So Rory Moon is here to stay. Chien-Pao is potentially going to be a strong archetype, and Lost Tina is not dead, and potentially it's overthrown Zard. Really, really interesting time for him over in Japan, and I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Don't forget to enter my giveaway. It closes on Saturday, so you've got multiple times to win over 60 code cards, which is honestly incredible, and a way to say thank you for 100,000 total views on my channel. Since I started in January, it's incredible to think about, and we're on episode 38. We are 14 episodes away from my 1 year sort of going with it. So thank you so much for the support on the channel recently. It's been incredible. And I hope you guys have a brilliant rest of your day. I'll be back in a couple of days' time for another deck profile video. Potentially go look at I Am Valiant with Urshifu. Could be a bit of an underrated deck. It's not been performing as well overall, but it is very, very strong capability to get these big donkey turns where your opponent hasn't even played a single card. See you guys in a couple of days. Bye for now.